Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics Round 20 review. We're recording live on Sunday, the 27th of July, after the completion of Round 20. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And none of my co-hosts are on tonight, unfortunately, as they have all got other commitments, but got a special guest and jumped on his podcast earlier last week. So I thought he would jump on this week and return the favour. He's a good friend of the show, DC from HatChat. DC, mate, how are you? How was your weekend?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Yeah, weekend was okay. But yeah, it's all right. I know exactly what it's like to have your co-host going missing. So glad I could jump on and help out.
Yeah, no, beautiful. Thank you, mate. What a round that was. We're getting to plenty of the action, including that last game, which we saw a certain fantasy player just absolutely dominate. He's absolute star. But we'll recap our rounds and go through how we went in round 20. So, DC, how did you go this week? What was your score, your round ranking? Where's your overall rank looking like?
Yeah, so I had the nice round number of 2,450, which moved me up about 40 spots, I think. So not much in the rankings. I'm sitting at 1,009th, so not quite in the three figures, but on the fringe again. That's kind of been the story of a lot of my season, getting just inside the 1,000, then dropping just back out. So it'll be, with 4 rounds to go, the plan would be to get into three figures. So that was a 4,500 round rank. So solid enough, but not a fantastic round.
The fact you saw 2,450 and you barely moved your rank just shows how big this round was. It was the highest scoring round of the season for a lot of people. So pretty incredible round there. You got me by 2 points. So if I'd known that, maybe I would have got another guess because I would have been the top scoring coach of the pod. But I scored a 24.48, just the 2 points behind your DC there. So up to 3,422, which is up 339 spots. So we're just outside the 3K, which is nice. Top 2K has been the goal. So we're still in the hunt for that, and hopefully we can reach that before the end of the season. Round rank as well of 4,699, so not too bad. But the fact there were 4,700 coaches essentially that were scoring a lot better than the 24.48 is pretty incredible. So very, very high scoring round there. Plus and minus threes. We'll move to that one. DC, we'll start off with you. Plus and minus 3 for the week.
For me, the -3, unfortunately, is very obvious. It's either to Miles Bergman or myself, one of the two, because I had Tom McCarthy's 82 on the bench and stupidly thought, well, I haven't got much to lose. Surely Bergman can at least match that. And he did not even get half of that. So 39, disastrous. He kicked the ball the wrong way in the first 5 seconds of the game and still ended up with 2 in the first quarter. So you get a +3 and he still ended up with 2. So that's how well he was going, and stopped my round from being a pretty good one, unfortunately, with that dud score was a real outlier for me. And then the +3, I mean, it could have gone to a whole heap of players. I'll go the low-hanging fruit and throw it to Nas because he's been unbelievable this year. And we were just talking pre-pod. I think he's a half a shout of a Smoky for the Brownlow. He has had a ridiculous season. So to win that game in that fashion and 147 fantasy points, including 4 goals, he's an absolute freak.
What a special player. Like, I thought this was a tricky game for him because of Langdon, but they didn't really tag. They didn't really tag him, which part of me is shocked. But then I'm also thinking like a team's just going, well, maybe we just can't stop him. Maybe we just have to do a team tag because we just don't have anyone to go with him. It's just, unless you've got a James Jordan who can keep him quiet enough, it looks like an incredibly tough task. And the fact that he's now got North, Richmond, Essendon in his next 3, regardless of what his price is, you have to get him. If you don't have him, I'd be almost just you'd almost be breaking your team again, to be honest. He's just absolutely incredible. My plus and minus 3 for the week. I'll start off with my -3 as well. Could have given it to 3 players. So Tom Green and Chad Warner can consider themselves lucky for not getting this because their efforts were putrid, but they were topped off by the small potato, which is Caleb Daniel. 60 points. He's just been very middling, and because he's been in the forward line where there's not really any standout options, someone hasn't turned up since round 3. You would have thought they'd be gone a long time ago, but the fact he's been staying in my team at F6, and he just again hasn't gone, as I said, a ton since round 3. Just middling scores, like some 90s and some 70s, and then went even one better and went to 60. So I don't know if I'll be able to trade him because of Connor Rozee potentially out as well, and a few other little issues that might pop up. But he's someone that will be on the chopping block pretty quickly. And then my +3, yeah, again, as you said, DC, so many guys that could have got it this week. I think I've got to give it to. I think I'll give it to the Bont, 146. Just very, very good score. It's just obviously we know how good the Bont is, but to feast on the Bombers, which some games he doesn't tend to do that. Sometimes he'll go forward, he'll rest forward, but this game he just thought, nah, I'm going to have a 60-odd point last quarter again. Second time in probably like 3 weeks that he's had a 60-point last quarter. So yeah, absolutely incredible. But there are a lot of unlucky omissions from the +3 that could have got it, and I'm sure we'll chat about those guys as we go through the games. But to recap, the Content Creators Cup finals, qualifying elimination finals for the first week. So obviously, Content Creators Cup proudly brought to you by Infinite Wealth. Obviously, that's Guesty's company there. Make sure you go to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to claim all sorts of goodies there that Guesty's got going on throughout the year. But in terms of the qualifying elimination finals, the first qualifying finals between Louis and DT Lemon, and thankfully for Lemon, for Nasiah, for getting it done for him as a unique. He won 24-86 to 24-32. So a really close game there. Unfortunately, Bergman was costing Louis in that matchup. Only 4 uniques was obviously just showing how well both those guys are doing. Holmesy, who again had another massive week, 25-49, defeated MJ 22-89. MJ got quite unlucky. He had the Tim Taranto late out and only had Hugh Boxhill, who was the sub, as cover. So the fact that Boxhill got 59 is not actually too bad, but yeah, unfortunate there for MJ copping that bullet right at the end of the weekend. And then Nathan, one half of the HatChat in the elimination finals, got the job done, 24-28, defeating Jaiden 23-54. So for the first time in Content Creators Cup history, there will not be an AFL Fantasy Fanatic in the grand final, but there won't be a ball boy either in the Content Creators Cup final for the first time as well, because DC, you're able to get the job done over Luke. How did you go in the matchup?
Yeah, I think reasonably comfortable in the end from memory. I did check it sort of during the last game and thought, oh no, I should be right there. Although I think he had gone and I had 3 Saints players, and I was getting flashbacks because there's been a couple of times this year where Gawn has come storming home in the last quarter and my team has stopped. So I was slightly concerned, but ended up, I think, being reasonably comfortable in the end. 140 odd points.
Yeah, beautifully done, mate. So semi-finals, you take on Louis, which will be a very good matchup there. Again, just the 5 uniques before trades, which will be interesting to see how the matchup goes. And MJ is up against Nathan. So a couple of HatChat members there. So HatChat, along with Pod, have got the best chances because they got the most members still alive in the Content Creators Cup. So we keep a close eye on to see how the boys will be going there. And then in terms of the overall ranks as well, Holmesy is currently up to 15th overall. So another great week and another big move. As these pod members are saying, he's daring to dream, Holmesy. So he's going along very, very nicely. Also, Lemon is 204th, going along nicely, moved up in rank, I believe, this week. Nathan, 438. Louis, 844th. And DC, as you mentioned, just outside the top 1,000, along with Mitch, who has had a very, very good second half of the year. He is 1,115. And a few other coaches inside the top 3K as well, going along nicely. But let's get into the games and recap the round of footy that was. And we'll start all the way back on Thursday night, which was Hawthorn and Carlton, with Hawthorn getting the job done by 24 points. And I think we've got to start off with obviously a retiring fantasy legend in Sam Doherty. DC, I know you owned him for his last game, looping him on the bench. So just your thoughts on Sam Doherty's career, because obviously it's been a very good one and had some challenge throughout the way, but he's come back from each of them.
Yeah, I can't think of a player who's gone through, I guess, more adversity in their career and still being able to craft out a very good career. I don't think he got 200 games, but I think 150 plus games. is seriously impressive when he had 3 ACLs, I think, off the top of my head, and then obviously fought cancer twice. So pretty incredible. It is a shame that he obviously hasn't had a chance to see much success at Carlton, but you could see, I think, probably in the back half of the year that his body was certainly starting to slow down a little bit. I wonder whether it'd be interesting to know, because he was obviously one of those guys way back when that left Brisbane, I think along with Elliot Yeo and a couple of others around that sort of time when they were down the bottom. It'd be interesting to know whether he would take that back and have the chance to plant a flag up there or not. But he's been fantastic for us in fantasy as well. Obviously had a massive 115 plus season as a defender in maybe 2017, 2018, quite a while ago now, but then multiple other 100 plus seasons in a variety of different roles. But his best role was definitely across half back. So yeah, good luck to him in retirement. I think he'd make a pretty good coach as well. Wouldn't surprise me he ends up being in the coaching ranks somewhere. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. Legend. And the fact that he was still fantasy relevant for us even this year is incredible. So I'm really hoping that he still goes to like a rebuilding team and does like a Luke Hodge, where he'll go to a young team, play off halfback and be like a general. But if it is the final game that he does play, then obviously very, very good career, Doc, and the fantasy community and AFL community in general do love you, mate. So congrats on a great career. But some other big scores from this game. So George Hewitt with a 116. A few coaches had him there, probably even looped him on the Thursday night, but 116 be very, very happy with after dropping a 50-odd last week. James Sicily, though, DC 110. Any interest as a D7? He looked pretty. He looked back to some good form, taking those intercept marks, a couple of rundown tackles as well, and looks to be going well. Tough matchup against the Crows this week, and I don't think he's got a particularly amazing run, but I think he'll still be under 700k or around that mark. Any interest from you as a D7?
Yeah, I think if you're right up the top and you've got cash to burn, you've already got a really set best 22 on field, he's the sort of player I think you could take a punt on. Plays the Friday night game this week against Adelaide, and then he's got the Thursday night game against Collingwood as well, so which is a nice option to have sitting there at D7 if you are looking for someone to play that role. But I would say a lot of teams have probably still got McCarthy doing that as well. So if you've got issues on field, I'll be trying to fix those up first before bringing in that 23rd player. But he definitely looked back to close to his best in that game.
If someone had McCarthy on field as their D6 or M8, because I know there's a lot of coaches still got him out there on field, would Sicily be a good target to, if you can't get up to the 900k plus players? Because there's a bit of a gap in the 800k range. There's not really a great deal of targets that people are liking. So if like you can't get to that 900k plus player and you can maybe do McCarthy sideways to a Sicily and then maybe another sideways trade upwards, would you tick that off?
Yeah, as long as you can do something with the other trade. I think if you just go McCarthy to Sicily, I'm not sure that's a great upgrade. I'd probably be trying to get up a bit higher in that sort of instance. But yeah, I think he's an option, but he's not one I'd be going out of my way to get. If it suits your trades, and go for it. Let's just having a check. I think Bailey Dale's at 874k. I think I'd rather him if you can afford that sort of price range. I think he's shown a more consistent ceiling this year than what Sicily has. Yeah.
Harry O'Farrell, another 103. Scored a 30 last week. So if you had him on your bench, then fantastic. You get 100 from a rookie. You get to bench someone that you probably weren't happy with. So if you were in that situation, congrats there. Dylan Moore, 99 points. He was good once again. So he potentially could be a target for you in the forward line. But I guess DC, we mentioned with Sicily how he's not a great, but Moore's also had a poor year. I think they're probably two names that we're probably putting in our black book for next year. I'd say probably you'd agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I brought Moore in coming off his bye, and he was pretty disappointing for 3 weeks, but he's been good the last couple, so hopefully he can finish strong. But I think he's probably going to be a little bit underpriced on what he can do to start next year.
Yeah. Adam Sherrill, 85. If you've got him, I just think it's time to go. He's had a great year, but the last 5 weeks have, I think, all been sub-tons, and a few of them been like 70s and 80s. So he's giving up 30, 40 points a week potentially to some of those pre-mids. So he's probably one I'd look to be upgrading there. Obviously, if you did have Doc, obviously that was his last game, as we mentioned, so you'll have to trade him this upcoming week as well. It was good to see Will Day back. Obviously, a lower score, managed minutes for him, but good to see Will Day back, even though as a Crows fan, I wouldn't mind him being rested this upcoming week on Friday night, because he's a very, very good player there. And yeah, Amon as a pod, if you had him 58, that's disappointing. there, but not too much else was happening besides John Newcomb, who scored a 39. And obviously, friend of the show, Tom Hales, traded him out this week, but he said that if he didn't, there would have been a lot of tweets on the Thursday night. So shout out to you, Tom. Thank you. How good that you trade him out. Moving over to Friday night footy. So the sort of overlapping games, still don't understand it, but we did have Essendon and the Bulldogs, with the Dogs winning by 93 points. And the Bont with a 146, as I mentioned, with my +3 was just, again, fantastic. 35 touches, a couple of goals, 10 marks was obviously the big thing as well. So, yeah, very, very good game by him. Sam Darcy filled up his boots with 6 goals and a 117. Zach Merritt with a 115. So DC, obviously, great score from Merritt, considering obviously the amount of players that are out for Essendon. Like, he was one of only 3 players that scored over 90, and I believe one of 5 that went over 80. He's now got Sydney this week, and the James Jordan tag is potentially going his way. And then I looked at the rest of the games. They don't look great in terms of, there are options. I think they've got Saints in there as well, so potentially like a win. Hang on, I'm just pulling up the run here. So you got Jordan this week, then they got Geelong, which an O'Connor went to in the last time, so I would be shocked if they did that again. Then Saints, and then Carlton. Would he be someone that, if you're in luxury trade season, you could maybe go down to a Whitfield or a sideways to a Sinclair or one of those other mids? Do you think this would be a week, if you haven't got many other issues, you'd be happy to trade him out?
Yeah, I think, as you said, only if you don't have other issues, because he's far from my biggest issue. I've got 3 or 4 other guys on my team that I would definitely rather trade out instead of him. And I think the other factor is, I'm not sure he's actually guaranteed to get a tag because of how badly Essendon are going at the moment. Like, they're probably not going to beat any of those teams they've got coming up, I wouldn't have thought, on current form. So why would you bother tagging him, is kind of my thoughts. But yeah, he might get a bit of attention here and there, but yeah, as I said, my team's got way bigger issues.
Yeah, he's someone that I had penciled in this week for a few weeks ago. If I didn't have Carnage, that would be someone to go. So at this stage, he'd be someone that I'm potentially looking at moving on. Pretty much comes down to him or Caleb Daniel. I think I'll be moving on, and yeah, maybe it might have to be Caleb Daniel. But yep, he is someone I think if you don't have 4 trades, you can trade out. A few other Dogs: Aaron Norton, Tim English, Jason Johannesson, and Matt Kennedy. Another ton there with a 101. So he dropped in price again. So I believe is he under 900K now? If you don't have Matt Kennedy like myself, yeah, 895, break even to 105. Got the Giants this week, so not a great matchup. But then after that goes Melbourne, West Coast, Freo. I think he's a very, very good option. Definitely a top 6 forward, I think he's probably the second forward behind Baz there. So I'd be targeting him. Going down the list here. So Bailey Dale with a 69, copped the Guelphy tag. Unfortunately, that was a slight flag after the way they dominated them last time. And we know that sometimes when Dale gets these tags, he can go missing, but it's got the Giants, and then obviously that 3-game stretch I mentioned with Kennedy. So I think he'll be fine. Giants haven't been really tagging much either as of late. And then, yeah, the only other thing probably was, unfortunately, again, Jordan Ridley with a 33, again, another hamstring injury. So sucks for him. He's done a few this year, but I guess they get someone that might be cheaper for us to look at next year as well. So unfortunate for him. Moving over to the Battle of the Bridge, GWS and Sydney, and what a turnaround by GWS after being down by a fair bit early in the second quarter to come back in with that third quarter, amazing quarter footy up until we saw the one today, winning by 44 points. And the Ruck Pig continued on his merry way with a 130. He was just great. 24 touches, 7 marks, 5 tackles, just filling up stat lines, and not really many hitouts going around. He got 29 and then Briggs 19, then 7 and 7. So not really a high stoppage game. But yeah, Grundy still got the job done. Along with Lockie Whitfield, 109. The DC's obviously got a good run coming up, starting with the Dogs, who's actually got a very good history against, I believe, 4 of his last 6, I think he's gone over 130 against them there. I'd say that if you don't have him, would he be one of your top trading targets this week?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got Doherty who's going to need to go, and as I said, Bergman as well. So if I can get one of them to Whitfield and then sort something out with the other trade, I'll probably be looking at that. I think he's right for the picking right now.
Yeah, agreed. Errol, 98, went off with an injury. I don't know if you saw this DC at the end of the game, but went off with a hit. I don't even know what the injury was. Do you know what the injury was, or sort of heard?
No,
I haven't seen anything.
Haven't heard. So it'll just be a case of watching during the week, seeing whether he gets named in the injury list on Tuesday. if anything comes out of the club. But hopefully it was just a bit of cramp or something being right at the end of the game. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, he wasn't listed on the post-game injury report where it was just McLean concussion and Hamling with a hamstring. So I guess that's a good sign. So hopefully he should be good because he's got a prime matchup this week against the Bombers, which I could see Errol feasting. Would you target him if he's named with the Bombers matchup? He's had obviously 3 sub-tons, but would he be someone because of the matchup that you'd look at targeting?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
definitely.
Agreed. Callum Mills, 94. I've got him, and he was someone I was looking at trading over the next couple of weeks, but I think you probably hold against the Bombers this week. He looked good once again with a 94 and got a goal. Was sort of gifted a little bit, got the 50-metre penalty, but we definitely take that and very happy there. If you got Cogs, 79 was a pretty solid enough score as a forward. Tom Green, DC. He's just very poor at the moment. I know he's playing like good football in terms of from a football sense, but fantasy wise, just is like low 170. It's just not getting done. 16 touches is not good enough. I guess we hold, right? But what do you think? I'm assuming you're not targeting him if you don't have him.
No, I think I've kind of been happy enough to fade him most of the year, and he's had a couple of big games here and there, but not consistently. Actually reminds me of like when we all started in, what was it, a couple of years ago now? And that was his sort of breakout year. And the discussion was around whether he would actually ever be that sort of 110 averaging mid, or whether he'd sort of be that 95, 100 guy because he's so inside. But he's kind of shown often enough that he can still get the ball around the ground. But it feels like this year more than any other year over the last 3 seasons, he's actually shown that maybe his main strength is that inside stuff. And if he is not getting a lot of the ball doing that like he did in this game, he struggles to score. So I'm quite happy fading him, or continuing to fade him at the moment, because just hasn't shown the ceiling often enough.
Yeah, he actually reminds me of a big version of Caleb Strong. Just inside, gets a lot of the ball. And I think we were
Paddy Cripps.
Yeah. A lot of those players that just don't really get the tackles a lot, and then if they don't get the outside ball, they're just not going to score. I know we were chatting about this actually. We were messaging each other. I think it was Friday night, and you were saying that probably a lot of it's got to probably do with Finn Callahan, the breakout that he's had. He just gets the ball and just charges forward and just kicks it forward. So it's like he's not really like the main sort of guy in the engine room. He's the guy that gets it out to Finn Callahan. So he'll get the handball, but he's not going to get the other disposal. So disappointing. I wouldn't be targeting him. He's got a good run to end the year. So I'm hoping as an owner he can go well, because otherwise might look at trading next couple of weeks there. Chad Warner scored a 70. Not great, but the forward line isn't great, and he's got a good run to end the year. So I think we just hold him there, but maybe someone, if you don't have him, you just don't look at targeting. And Lockie Ash, another disappointing one there with a 65. That was his first sub-ton, I think it was, in like 8
Finally.
Yes. As a non-owner, it was good to finally see him not go well, but he's now got a very good run coming up. So as a non-owner DC, is he someone that with this last month to go, you'd be looking at bringing in?
I think I'd rather Whitfield.
Could you have both?
But yeah, you could have both. Yeah, if you've already got Whitfield and like the look of Ash, then you could grab him. Yep.
Yeah, he's someone on my list for sure that I'll be looking at over the coming weeks. But he was the pick over Sam Taylor at the end of the year. There you go. There's my Sam Taylor reference for another pod. That is it from that game. So we'll move on to the Gold Coast and Lions game, with Gold Coast smashing Brisbane by 66 points. Interesting. You go 1 week not scoring a half and getting smashed to smashing a premiership fancy the next week. So really incredible. But we talked about him last few weeks, DC. But Matt Rao, 145, and you shouted Jake out on the HatChat pod on Monday for what a trade in. But what a trade in by Jake for doing that. But 37 disposals, the 4 marks and 12 tackles. He's expensive, but this time of the year, he's got Richmond this week. Like, do we just bite the bullet and get him now?
Look, if you need a midfielder and you've got the cash to do it, this is the time of the year to do those sorts of trades. He's had an incredible few months. it wouldn't surprise me if he has a low one coming over the next month at some point, because we've seen that over a lot of his career, where yes, he has these big ceiling games, but he also drops 60s and 70s fairly regularly. Like if we're talking about players in that Tom Green mold, I think he's in that sort of mold as well. I think he has improved his outside game a little bit over the last 18 months or so, I'd say. But yeah, if you like the look of him, as you said, he's got a good game this week. Yeah, I wouldn't talk you out of it, and he's still pretty unique as well.
Yeah, he's actually got a couple. I think he goes Carlton the week after as well. So back-to-back good matchups there. Yeah, definitely someone I think we have to look at. He has been very, very good. Fiorini has been another person just quietly getting it done as well with another 126. I don't think we're targeting him anymore, but if you jumped on 5-6 weeks ago, you'd be pretty happy with what he's been doing, getting back to those numbers of past years there. Lockie Neal went well.
So I was just going to say, I got Fiorini off a few waivers in draft. I'm sure a few other people did as well. So you've managed to jag him there. He's been one of the best pickups of the year.
Oh, 100%. No, we love the pastor. Lockie Neal with a 124 was also good in a tough loss. Bailey Humphrey with a 114. And Josh Dunkley, once again, another 14 tackles. I'm very, very happy as an owner this week of bringing him in. Late adjustment from Jack Steer, which we'll get to him a little bit later on. But I'm safe to say I'm pretty happy with making that switch because, Josh Dunkley in a tough loss where they got beaten pretty badly and had a pretty average first half. I think the first quarter wasn't very good, but got going second half and tackled his way to a good score. So shout out to Josh Dunkley. Very good score from him with a 112. Noah Anderson with a 107. Could be would you target him, DC, over Matt Rao if you're looking at a Gold Coast player this week with the Richmond matchup?
Probably. What's the price difference?
Okay, so Matt Rao,
$100K, isn't it?
So Matt Rao is 1.12 and Anderson is 1.01. It's about 110K.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Anderson to me seems like the guy that beats up the sort of weaker teams a little bit where he gets more of the outside ball. But yeah, I mean, Rao's shown more of a ceiling this year, hasn't he? I'm just looking at Anderson's scores for the year. He's got 2 scores over 120. So Rao's just come off a 140 something. So I think they're both pretty good trades. If you still need to sort out a few other spots on your field, then maybe Anderson's the one. Give yourself another 100K to play with for the following week.
Yep, agreed. John Noble with a ton as well. He could be a bit of a sneaky pot in defence with Rioli out. 31 touches for him, and they've obviously got Richmond this week and took the most kick-ins. It was a very interesting game, DC, in terms of the kick-ins. You had like Noble had 5, and then you had a few lines. Wilmot with 4, Fletcher with 3, Andrews with 2. Then you had Yolan, Buderick, Zorko, Jeffrey, and McAndrew, and and Will Powell all having 1 each. But Zorko was the interesting one, just the one kick in and 55 points. Obviously, it was a bad loss for them. And Jordy messaged me before the game and said that he's going to be managing a List Frank injury for the remainder of the year. I'm assuming for you, DC, that would just be putting a line through him as an upgrade target for the rest of the year because we've got a few of these defenders putting up good scores.
Yeah. As I said, almost 2 years ago, I'm not going to bring in Zorko because he's injury prone. Well, that's finally come true. I think definitely not a trade target. I'd actually be considering whether you trade him out if we know that he's going to be playing a bit injured.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next year.
Yeah, maybe that role is going to be shifted around. If the rest of your team's in a pretty good place, maybe you don't have Doherty, you've already moved him on. You don't have guys like Bergman who need to go. Rosie, we might touch on in a minute, but if we know that he's playing a bit injured, I'd be looking at other options, I reckon. Yeah,
I'd agree as well. Could be a trade option, as you mentioned there, because Brisbane got a tough run home with these matchups. I think Dunkley will be suited to that, but I think maybe Zorko would be a bit trickier for him to beat up on those teams near the bottom of the ladder. Tim Ashwood with a super chat here. Thank you, mate. Scored a 25-17 this week. Inside the top 50 went Daniel Demise. You'll be very, very happy with that trade. And when you're doing the Patreon rankings this week. Yes, I'll be doing that this week, Tim. So over the next couple of days, and I'll be able to look at your team there, and we can see how it's going, mate. But congrats on another very, very good week. Sam Flanders, unfortunately, was a disappointing player from this game with a 59 as well after a good game last week, just a disappointing one. So I just think if you've got him, he's a trade. Or if you can move into D7 and trade maybe McCarthy around him, then maybe you do something like that. McCluggage with an 86 as well. Was a little bit unders, but obviously Brisbane were poor in this game here. Moving over to the Western Derby, and it was Freo getting the job done, 126-77, but a pretty dour first half for sure by Freo, kicking themselves almost out of the game, but getting the job done in the end. But a fantasy game was pretty bad, not great viewing. Liam Baker, the only ton with a 119, and then Hayden Young, who won the medal, who only played about 3/4, I believe was, or just over 3/4 with a 98. He was also good. So a few people would have picked him up in draft if people dropped him, so it would be a good pickup there. Luke Jackson, 97, another good game from him. Andrew Brayshaw with an 82. 32 touches to get an 82. That's a bit disappointing. A lot of handballs, not many marks or tackles. So, yeah, very frustrating there. Tom McCarthy with an 82. So that would have been maybe looped on by a few coaches. So 82 was solid there. Tim Kelly with a 78. So anyone that had to hold on to him again, he put out an okay score as a forward, but I think you'd still look to trade him out. But Caleb Sarong, DC, 71. We know that Sarong does this. I'm surprised it was in a game like this. I know that Hoff went to him for a lot of the game, but is he someone that, if you, again, luxury, you might have only just brought him in, but with not a great score there, is he someone that you might look to trade out to get someone that's got that more consistent ceiling?
Yeah, I think so. We've seen this from him for a lot of the season. He had that patch, obviously, maybe a month or so ago, but outside of that, hasn't really shown too much in terms of sort of regular ceiling scores. So yeah, I think he can go. He'd be a higher priority for me than guys like Merritt. So yeah, can definitely move him on. And yeah, speaking of Brayshaw being disappointing, he was my trade in this week. So on the plus side, I did pivot to him from Steele, so it makes me feel slightly better. But yeah, 32 touches with an 82 for Brayshaw, quite annoying.
Yep, nothing worse than a trade in just putting up an average score. And unfortunately, Brayshaw, hopefully he can go a lot better for you, DC, next week. And then the obviously injury from here, Harley Reid with a 52. He's looks like a syndesmosis injury, so I would imagine that would be season done for him. I can't imagine even if he's 2-3 weeks, I don't think the West Coast is going to rush him back. So that might be him done for the year. But again, DC, I know you mentioned this on the Twitter space a couple of weeks ago now, saying that he's someone put on the list as a potential option. I'm not sure if he'll have mid status, but I'm not sure if he would do enough to get a forward status. I know he's played a bit of defense, but I think it would be just a straight mid. Yeah, but
which will make it tricky.
Yep, someone to put on, but yeah, agree with that. Moving to the two Saturday night games and a couple of, again, very, very big wins here for Geelong, and then we'll go to the next game shortly. But Geelong winning by 101 points to North Melbourne. I believe that's the first 100-point loss of any team of the season, unfortunately. But Jeremy Cameron, 157. Now, DC, I'm partly annoyed I didn't look at this more because for a split second, I was just adjusting trades, seeing what I could have done when I wasn't really looking at Steele, and I didn't put it in, but I looked and I could have done Caleb Daniel to Jeremy Cameron and then also gone Doherty to a Jack Sinclair or Lockie Whitfield. So that would have been, we've been pretty happy with that. But Jezza, we know that he loves playing the teams down the bottom. He can feast on it. And 31 goals away with 4 weeks to go, and then plus finals.
Finals, yeah.
Yep, there's a good chance he gets to 100, but what's his price now? He would have gone up a decent amount on the weekend. So 816K, break even of 42. Caleb Daniel, Jeremy Cameron. What are your thoughts?
Maybe. Who's he got coming up? That's probably
so he's got Port Adelaide this week. Then he goes into
then Bombers.
Yeah.
Sydney a bit tougher, and then finishes with Richmond. Yeah, you can do it. You can definitely do it with those 3 games. He's got probably 2 of the bottom 4 sides really over the next month. So yeah, you can do it.
Would it be better to go maybe if you can, I don't know, use Zach Merritt as an example, right? Maybe you got 40, 50K in the bank. Could you go like Zach Merritt, say to a Whitfield, bank a little bit of money there, and then go McCarthy up to Jeremy Cameron as an F7?
Yeah, you could do that. Or even as your F6, if you're still rolling with a pretty shaky F6, I think he's probably going to have a couple of big games in those 4. So yeah, I don't mind that kind of move. I'm actually this jogged my memory because I brought him in last week in Real Dream Team, and he's actually pushed me from 30th overall up into 20th this week. So
Yeah, right.
the big point of difference, which helped me out there a fair bit. So yeah, wishing I did it in fantasy as well.
Yeah, he's yeah. I wish I put more thought into it and had a look at it, but no, very, very good score, 157 from him. Baz returned to some form, 132 with 43 disposals. Very good to see Baz get back to some form. If you don't have him, he's a good target and probably a good time to just lock him away, particularly if you've got a Caleb Daniel and you've got some cash in the bank. Get him up to Baz and don't think twice about that one. Max Holmes with 118 as well. A lot of relevant fantasy players going well here. Sheezer with a 111 there. Tom Powell, 111. I think Powell's put up a few tons in a row. I know, DC, I can hear you saying, where was this the start of the year? Or at least continued, because he started well at the first few games, but went quiet and going well. I personally think North Melbourne should be, no offense to Will Phillips, but just put Tom Powell in there and leave him in the midfield. He's a good player when he gets the opportunity. So North Melbourne, I know you're not listening to this, but just play him in the midfield. Luke Parker, 106. I was relieved and very happy that he put up a good score after that dreadful 48 last week, and he was a lot of bulk midfield time as well. So if his role on the weekend is any sign of the last month, I still think he's not a bad target. But he does have the ability to put up a low score, but every forward does have that ability. Cody McKercher with a 104 as well. Where do you sit with him, DC? Obviously, he's been going well, right? He only put up that low score because he got the tag from a James Jordan. Is he just a season-long hold, just with the fact that he's got this great role and just scoring well week on week?
I think at the moment, yeah, I don't see too many reasons why you would trade him out. I mean, he's probably averaging close to 100. Since he's moved into that half-back role. So not going to be that far off the top 6 defenders, particularly when we've got guys like Zorko potentially being a trade-out option. So, yeah, I guess similar to my answer for some of the other questions, he's a fair way down my list of trade-out priorities at the moment.
Yeah, he's just been getting it done week after week. I'm actually just working out his average as we speak here from those games. So he has played 2, 4, 6, 8, the 8 games at an average of 96. So not too far away there. And he's got the Saints this week, then Giants, then Richmond. So I think if luxury position, I think he's the perfect D7, M9 because he's got that defender mid flexibility. If you can somehow make that work, then great. But yeah, I think he's a low priority to trade with the role. Again, he still had a bulk amount of kick-ins. And I believe I was not watching this game because I was at the other game at the same time. Apparently, Caleb Daniel, he had a CBA, went forward, I think, for a couple of centre-bounce as well. So I just wonder if North might start experimenting with him in other positions, meaning Colby might get a lot more of the ball back there. So probably something just to watch moving forward. Grind Myers with a 98. Solid score from him, and I think he's one of the safer forwards going around again. He had a few CBAs, had 16 CBAs, so only behind Baz, Holmes, and Atkins for the midfielders. So he's looks to be the 4th CBA guy at the moment, and Bo's had 10. So pretty tight rotation there. So if that's a sign of things to come, Grind Myers could put up some really good scores to finish the year. Sean Matter with an 87. So if you had him, I'd be happy enough with that score. Bryn Teaker with an 81, made some cash and a solid score. Got one more week of him as the solo ruck, and he was the clear solo ruck here as well with the most CBAs on the ground, with Finn Barmali only having the 4, and I think Will Dawson had the 2. So, solid score from him. LDU with a 77. Caleb Daniel, 60. Tom Stewart, 62. DC with Stewart and Daniel, I think if you've got them, they probably priorities to be trading out.
Definitely Stewart, particularly in that position. Daniel, probably yes as well. Just hasn't really shown any sort of ceiling probably since the first month or so of the season. So, yeah, I think he can go. Not that there's a whole heap of other really good forward options, but I think there's still better options.
Yeah, like Jeremy Cameron. It's not too much of a swap for that, and I'd much rather Jeremy Cameron with the ability to pop some big.
Or if you haven't got McRae still, I still think McRae is probably going to be 90 most weeks, and even though he did have that poor one last week, but bounced back this week, definitely think I'd rather him in my team for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, and even Matt Kennedy, who I don't have, like that would be something I'm definitely looking at upgrading in the forward line. I think he has got to go. And then Jack Martin with a 44. That was disappointing. I think he spent the last 30-something minutes on the bench, which is ridiculous. But I know they've been managing him through. But if you've got him, it's time for him to go, unfortunately. And I believe that was it from the game. So we'll move over to the game that I was actually in attendance for. And it's safe to say I've only just finished getting dry because it was wet and very, very wet. And that was with a poncho on. So 133-35. So big win for the Crows. It was worth it in the end. But yes, it's very, very wet. Saligo, very, very good score from him. I know Jaiden's got him in his team, so be pretty happy with how he's going along with 121. Peatling with the 116. As I said about Tom Power. Peatling, where was this early in the season when we were looking at you in our teams? Zach Butters with a 115. Definitely give credit to him. He, like a few of those Port players, put down tools. Zach Butters is one player you never question downing tools. He was very, very good. Once again, with a 115, he's someone that you could potentially still look at targeting, but maybe not this coming week. They got Geelong, and Mullen did the really good job on him last time, so I'd imagine that gets done again. So I wouldn't be looking at him there. John Dawson with a 106. I'm happy with the score, but DC, I know you didn't see much of this game, but he was stuck on the bench in the second quarter when obviously it was so wet, and the Bulldogs got trapped on the opposite wing. And then the last quarter, he set the last 10 minutes with them being up so much. So this could have been a 120, 130 score. So a little bit disappointing, but 106 we're still happy with. I guess if you captained him, you probably would have wanted a little bit more from him there. Now, Dan Curtin is the interesting one, DC. 14 CBAs. He had a lot of them when Dawson was off resting on the ground, but looked good. Scored 97. We've talked about him for a few weeks as like someone you could look at targeting, but if this CBA role continues, could he be someone that you could look at as an F6 or even an F7 if you've got the cash?
Yeah, if he's getting CBAs, definitely. It's just that they've had so many guys that have rolled through there this year. I'd be a bit hesitant about whether that role would actually stick. Obviously, they got well and truly up in this game, but yeah, I mean, Saligo just the 12 CBAs, Dawson just the 11 from 71% game time, Rankin just the 1. I still think against some of the best sides when the whips are cracking, they're going to want those guys in there a little bit more. Even if Rankin's them pushing forward, they're still going to want him in the CBAs for a bit more explosiveness. So wouldn't be thinking he's guaranteed to keep that sort of role for the rest of the year. But that said, I mean, even when he's been out in the wing, he's been excellent. He's definitely one that I got wrong when people were sort of asking about him 5 or 6 weeks ago. He's, I think, surpassed all expectations, been very, very good, and looks like he's going to be a very good fantasy player for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm still. You'd be pretty happy, like, so I remember in a draft league that we were in, you picked him up. I reckon about 6 weeks ago off the waivers. So, mate, might have to get a trade going.
My team is rubbish in that league. So after winning the flag last year, I'm closer to the spoon this year. So it's dropped off a cliff. So he's going to help my rebuild.
Yeah. Oh, I might have to hit you up for a trade because he's as a Crows player, love watching him, and I'd like to have him in one of my draft leagues as well. But I was matched up against
he's not for sale, but you can take any one of my other 20 spuds. It's fine.
But I was up against Cam in that league. Actually, he had Nick Dacos, and the Sidewanger Mirror on his team, so I knew I wasn't going to win that game before the game started. But I don't think Curtin will keep this role. I don't think you keep the role, but the Crows have got West Coast and North Melbourne in their last 3 games. So if you're looking at someone that might get some more opportunity if the Crows do get up in those games, he could be someone that gets a few more CBAs in 2 of the last 3 games. Hawthorn this week, I wouldn't imagine he does. Collingwood in a couple of weeks, I wouldn't imagine he does either. But the other 2, I don't mind him as a bit of a play in the forward line just because of the amount of options. Now, Connor Rozee 95 was good, got plenty of the ball. But I'm concerned, DC. I don't know if he's going to be there next week because shout out to Aaron Bryans for reporting this from ABC Sport Radio post-game in the rooms. His hand was really swollen. And you could actually see it. And there's vision of him sort of standing there in the post-match presentation. It's really swollen. I don't think he'll play this week. And with the showdown now sort of out the way, I wouldn't be shocked if that could be season done for Rosie. I don't know how serious the injury is, how long it will take. DC, you're probably better equipped to answer a question like that. But Rosie, I'd imagine that he'll be a forced trade for a lot of us this week based on the swollen hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think the discussion pre that game was that it's unlikely he's going to cause any more damage. So the swelling doesn't indicate that he has damaged it more. It's just a natural response, the body's natural response to that. Sort of, it pushes blood to the area to help with the mending, basically. So I'd be waiting to see what happens during the week. I don't think I think it's an 8-day break from memory. I don't think he's guaranteed to not play. If it pulls up, okay, the swelling goes down pretty quickly. They still don't think he's likely to do any more damage to it. Then maybe he plays. But as you said, they're not playing for much now for their season. They've just got Belton in the showdown. Maybe they do put him on cotton sort of on ice in cotton wool for the rest of the year. I also think, though, he's the captain. Ken Hinkley's obviously been there for a long time. Maybe he wants to play out the season for Ken and help him out. So I guess we'll wait and see. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion one way or the other, though.
Yeah, and I thought he still looked good as well. I thought he got playing the ball in wet conditions. I thought he was clean with the ball. So if the swelling goes down, then hopefully we do see him out there because he can still score well. Took plenty of kick-ins as well. So took the 3 kick-ins. Sorry, Farrell still had 7, but he took the first few kick-ins. So that's probably why I thought he took a lot more than what he did. Lairdy got an 86 as well. Any interest there, DC? As Lairdy's an upgrade, as sort of a defender there with those. Obviously, West Coast North, maybe not this week, but maybe to end the season. Is he someone you look at, or do you think in defence you want some other guys with maybe high ceilings?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's probably a few other guys ahead of him. It'd be around maybe that sort of top 10 mark. Maybe, he's probably in that sort of top 15 to top 10 sort of defenders at the moment, but not one that I'd be going to chase thinking that he's going to make a big difference. So, yeah, probably a no from me.
Yeah. All I'll say is Laird over Sam Taylor. That's what I'll say, both for fantasy and everything else. Who else is next? Isaac Rankin, 64. Not the conditions for obviously Isaac, but it's frustrating as a forward that he's there with some poor scores. So DC, where do you sit with Rankin? Obviously, I mentioned that Crows have got a couple of nice games to come in their last 3, but they've got Hawthorn and Collingwood in their 2 of the next 3 weeks as well. Where do you sit with Rankin? Do you trade him out? Do you keep him because he's a forward? Do you try and maybe move some money around and maybe go McCarthy to an F6 and put him on the bench to be able to loop in those last few weeks? Where would you sit with Rankin for the last month of the season?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously playing almost as a permanent forward at the moment. I think he's probably a trade out. It's not worth an awful lot now, though, is he? That's the problem.
1 CBA.
Yeah. So, and obviously we started him, a lot of people started him at the start of the year or traded him in because we thought he was going to have that midfield role. The midfield role is not there. He's only really good score, I think, in the last 6 weeks, couple of months even, was when he kicked 5. So, I think he's probably a trade out. Is he a higher priority than some of the other guys we've spoken about? Perhaps not, if you can leave him there at F6. I think I'd probably rather trade him and use the money than have him just sitting at F7, though, personally.
Yeah. Well, I think someone that is a trade, unfortunately, is Miles Bergman with a 39. I'm actually shocked that he's playing because I think it came out during the week that he's got a shoulder injury that will require surgery. Again, playing, which I'm surprised that he hasn't been put in cotton wool because he just signed the contract on a decent amount of money. But I imagine that if you've got him, obviously I know you do, but for those coaches who got him, he'd be probably one of the high priorities to trade out.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's close to the top. I mean, Doherty's obviously going to have to go for me this week. I'd like to trade Bergman as well. It's just going to depend on what I can do with that amount of money, which is going to be awkward. So, obviously, lockout's only just left, so we'll have to play around with that during the week. But, quite frustrated myself for leaving him on the field, even though I did know that he had that shoulder issue. Probably thought that he could maybe cover McCarthy's 80 still, given that his form has been okay. Had the 90 the week before. So, I think he's a trade now, though.
Yeah, I thought that the conditions were going to suit him. He had 14 tackles in the week before, and I thought he was going to tackle his way to a solid score. But I heard pre-game they weren't going to do a tight tag with Dawson, which I thought was interesting. In the first 10 minutes of the game, he followed Dawson everywhere. But after that, he was saw him on the wing. I saw him at half forward. I saw him in defence. Like, it was just all over the place. Took a couple of kick-ins. So, I think that his role will just be chucked around a bit.
I think they need to, and I think it will happen next year under Josh Carr, but I think they just need to keep him in the midfield and just say, you're one of our top 2 or 3 midfielders. You're going to play that role. And just see what happens, because I think he's a really talented player. I think he's got really good size about him, which is probably what they need through the midfield there. He's good overhead. So I think he adds something a little bit different. I think he could be their version of a Jordan Dawson. Not maybe at that level of quality, but he could play that similar sort of role, because Butters is not a huge inside mid. Rose is obviously playing halfback. Wines is getting on a bit. Drew's a solid player, but probably not a lot more than that. So to me, he's just such an obvious move to keep him in the midfield permanently going forward. But if he's playing a bit injured, maybe that's why they're moving him around. But he'll definitely be one I'll be considering as a starting option next year.
Yep, I was just about to say that. Yep, we priced at 78 average at the moment. He'll still be a defender mid because of the amount of defence he's played this year. So I think he'll be a very good target there as well, because we saw when Port were healthy in that midfield, Rosie was playing defence and Burton was playing midfield. And I believe Josh Carr was Rosie's coach at North Adelaide, and that was where he was playing off halfback. So you'd imagine if that's a full-time role next year. And the only times they've swapped Bergman defence and Rosie midfield is either when they've been down by a lot or when Bergman's not tagging anyone and they just go in defence. So, I think it's a good shout for next year for sure. Moving over to the 2 Sunday games. But as always, the Spot podcast is sponsored by good friends at Game Day Squad. And if you are following them across the socials, you would have seen on the weekend that Fantasy Premier League has essentially been added to Game Day Squad. So another fantasy format there. So if you are a big fan of your soccer, get around it, because it starts in about 3 weeks' time, I believe. So looking forward to that. But we've also got the AFLW starting in a few weeks' time. So plenty of stuff still happening in Game Day Squad, even though the footy season is about to come to a conclusion. But use the code BAILSDT at sign up and you get some free packs. They're valued at $21 and it's free to play the game. So head over to gamedaysquad.com.au and sign up now and jump in all the fun and get prepared for all the new sports coming along with maybe building your club up for next year for when the footy begins in 2026. But moving over to Richmond and Collingwood, with Collingwood get the job done by 36 points here. And Nick Dacos, he's pretty good player, DC. Not too bad, not too shabby. 42 disposals and 3 goals for a 146. I think there was probably nothing more obvious than him dining out on the Richmond matchup this week with a few goals there. So 146. If you had him as your skipper, you'd be pretty happy. But a few good captains this week from that people would have had with a Bont or a Nick Dacos, maybe was an Asaya, Grundy, a lot of good scores around this week. So hopefully you guys got a good captain. Good to see Pig Mitchell up amongst the top scorers for the game as well with a 111. He was pretty good today. Josh Dacos with a 103. Wasn't great in the first quarter, but after that, got it done and was pretty good. Did he have many? I'm just looking. He had a few CBAs. Yeah, he had the 4 CBAs, 3 kick-ins. Hopefully Jeremy Howe, when he's back, that might mean a little bit more midfield time for him, but we will see what happens going forward. Darcy Cameron with a 99 was solid. Ned Long with an 83. I think he had a pretty quiet last quarter because you think he was on around that 75 mark at 3/4 time. So again, he'd be one that if you've got him, he would be a trade. I believe that was probably it, DC, from this game. Obviously, besides the fact that Taranto was very, very late out there. Was there any player that you wanted to chat about from this game, or?
Not in particular. I mean, probably just worth shouting out Nick Dacos, isn't it? Like that's, I think I was just looking at it, 1 score under a ton since his bye. So he's had a really strong second half of the year. Obviously, was frustrating at times pre-bye, but he's really storming home. He's gone 102, 137, 132, the 78 against the Suns, and then 162 last week, and the 146 to back it up. His average is now over 110 as well. So if you did manage to get on him and if you did manage to get on him at the right time, he's been a very important pick this year in the end, even though it certainly was frustrating for a lot of people earlier in the year. I think, like a lot of people, I'm keen to see him put a full season together where he doesn't have these funny games where he drops the floor scores, because I think he does have a 120 type season in him at some point.
Yep, exactly. He is the number 2 mid, though, because Alex Davies is the number 1 averaging mid because he scored a 111 from one game. But no, Nick Dacos has now overtaken Jordan Dawson, which
was it Luke Dunstan a few years ago that played the one game for a 120 and then didn't play again?
We kept seeing his name at the top for like the whole year.
He was in so many auto drafts, so that might be Alex Davies next year.
Yep, exactly. But no, Nick Dacos, he's been a very, very good. And it is a bit upsetting as a Crows fan that he's now the number 1 mid, but hopefully Dawson can have a good end to the year and overtake that spot where he's been for a lot of the year. And then we move to the final game, which I'm still sort of wrapping my head around what happened. I'm very happy because I tipped St Kilda. So I was like a St Kilda supporter in that last quarter as they were coming home. So very, very good, winning by 6 points, the biggest comeback at 3/4 time in VFL AFL history. So very good job by the Saints. But I thought we'd be remiss if we didn't chat a little bit more about Nasai Wanganeen-Miller DC. I know he's one of your boys, him and Caldwell. You've been on for a few years and both are going along well. And I reference this every time I talk about Nasai. We talked about him in pre-season and we said you said he could get to a 105, but none of us saw him doing what he's doing now. Because he's 1.18 million, there's probably 10% of coaches in the top 1,000 that don't have him, roughly, with a few people bringing him in. With these matchups coming up, is it a case of just, I don't want to say break your team because you don't want to break your team, right? But would you just bring him in and just go stuff it? Like maybe you go Caleb Daniel down or Bryn Teakle for a week and just go, I'll deal with Bryn Teakle next week just to get in the siren. Would you do something like that just to get him in?
I think you could. Let's say I do have him in my team. Thankfully, I traded him in during the buys, which I wasn't sure about at the time, but it's proved to be an excellent trade. Although it would have been better to start him, obviously. But if let's say I didn't have him this week and Doherty's an issue for me, Bergman's an issue for me, would he be someone I would trade in and just do whatever I could with the other move? I think I would. Yeah, he's been that good and been that resistant to any sort of attention. And I think a little bit like Merritt, teams are probably looking at St Kilda thinking, well, I think we should be able to beat them anyway. But his influence on games has been ridiculous. He's had 5 scores over 125 in his last 7 games, which is absolutely outrageous. So, yes, I think you can absolutely bring him in as long as it doesn't leave you too short in another position. But, yeah, this is the time of the season to do those sort of moves. I've got a question for you, Bales.
Yeah.
Do you start him next year?
Oh, that is a very good question.
Because he's going to be a defender again.
Yeah,
he'll be the number 1 defender by a distance.
And he'll be obviously very, very expensive. I'm going to say no, unless he's at the Crows. If he's at the Crows, then I'll probably have to be honest. But
I'd actually say no if he's at the Crows. I think he's more likely to do it again at the Saints.
Yeah. I personally, I probably won't because the amount of players I've started over the last couple of years at full price and they've not worked. Like I've thought, there's no way they're going to fail. Like a few years ago, started Rory Laird thinking, yep, midfield, great. He was a failed pick to start the year. I started Dawson and Bont, I think it was last year at full price. They both failed. Started Cherry this year thinking those tackle numbers aren't going to go away. He's a tackling beast. And that was an awful pick this year. So I feel like I just won't start anyone that's highly priced, but he's going to test it again because we feel like every year there's someone that we go, geez, can we not go without him? Like, I think another one that's going to be in this boat is going to be Harry Sheasel because Harry Sheasel will likely be a forward for us and he'll be the clear number 1. So it's like, do we pay up for Sheasel or do we look for value? So I think the size.
Sheasel's at 105 average. Wanganeen Miller's at the moment 113. Like, there's going to be a fair price difference there. I'd be much more comfortable paying up for Sheasel next year at this stage than I would paying up for Nas.
I thought I'd just give you this stat as well. Nasai Wanganeen-Miller. Nasai Wanganeen-Miller. Jeez, I almost got that wrong there. Averaging 129 in his last 4.
Brilliant.
Anyone that knows.
Best stat of the year.
Anyone that knows DC knows that he loves the last 4. But maybe it might be last 7 because I know you said obviously how many scores he'd done his last 7. But Nasai's just again, North, Richmond, Essendon in the next 3. Yeah, I'll be very interested to see what if Giants do anything with him in that last game. That will be something that will be interesting to see. Jack Viney, 134, 16 tackles. If you've got him in draft, be pretty happy with that. Jack Sinclair, DC, obviously a bit of a chat with Nasai here is the fact that because Nasai is in the CBAs a lot now, again, he was the second highest CBA guy behind Marcus Windhager with that tagging Cozzy Pickett. I think he's a very, very good target this week as well with those 3 matchups we just mentioned. If he's taking all those kick-ins, so he had 8 kick-ins, Schoenmaker, Stocker, Nasai had 1 each, he'd be a great target, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's actually been good for him as well because he was kind of just going with Nas playing a bit more half-back. But, yeah, when he seems to play more midfield, then Sinclair seems to get that really key distributor role, which helps him as well. So, yeah, I think he's a good target. Would you go him or Whitfield?
I was going to ask you that question. There's a very good chance I bring both in this week if I'm doing a couple of sideways shuffles. If I had to choose one, I think I still back in Whitfield, just because he's cheap. Because he's cheaper as well. He's about 40K,
I was just thinking that
40K cheaper. Yeah. So I think I'd go there. But Sinclair, we know Sinclair in these matchups absolutely cashes in. And I still remember messaging you that game against Richmond when the Nasai scored a 110 and he wasn't going too great. And then Sinclair was on 130. And I thought, why did I make the wrong call? Geez, that just looks like the worst take of the season, saying that now. So I'm very happy.
Don't judge your trades for a few weeks. That's always
unless it's Sam Taylor, then it's fine. You can say it was a bad call.
It wasn't, because I started him. I traded him after a week. It was absolutely fine.
yeah. You did the smart play.
I did judge it after a week.
Yeah. It was a good trade after a week, but if you had to hold him like myself, then not very good. Max Gawn, 123. We all knew he was going to have a good game, I think, here, and he's got West Coast this week. So if you're looking at a ruck trade, I think he is a good target there. Jack McRae was also good as well. Again, not huge CBAs. Like he had the 14
low tog too.
Yeah, low tog. So I guess that it'll be interesting to see what he does there. But these great matchups to come, I think he's still a decent target in the forward line there. Sean, just see you chat there as well. Yes, I was going to get to that because I knew it was a question. We're going to answer that once we finish this last game here. So, Sean, so we'll come back to your super chat there. Ryan Marshall, 88. I think he got beaten by Gawn comfortably, but still scored 88 and was okay. And the fact that Max Heath was dropped decent, I didn't actually expect it, to be honest. I thought they were going to play him, but the fact they won the game, I think it's a good chance that they're just going to keep him solo ruck for the next 3. Yeah. If he's solo this week against North Melbourne, obviously with just Teakle, would he be your top ruck that you're bringing in this week with the run that he's got to come?
Yes. Yeah. Looking at the games after that, he then rolls into Richmond, which we know is a soft matchup. Essendon, which is a very soft matchup at the moment, and then the Giants, which is a pretty soft matchup. We just saw Grundy go 130. So, I think it could be him and Grundy as the top 2 rucks for the last 4 rounds.
Yeah, I hope so, because they're the 2 ones that I've got in at my side currently. Chris Petrarch with an 84. It's better, but it's not great. He broke the DC, I know, in his last 4 games. So I know you love any stat with last 4 games. He went 70, 105, 70, 105. It was quite interesting that he had the exact same score in those weeks. So very interesting. But yeah, 84, not great, but he's probably better than a lot of the other forwards at the moment. So I think we just hold him.
He's now my F6 on price, which wouldn't have thought that would be the case earlier in the year.
No, exactly. But Cozzy Pickett, any interest there? He got past the Windhager tag this week with an 81, which was much better than the what did he get? The 42 against them last time. I was nervous about this matchup, but now goes West Coast, Bulldogs, Hawthorn, Collingwood to finish. I don't really see, there's no real tags coming there or anyone that I can see stopping him. Would he be someone in the forward line? Bit of a fun play to end the year?
This week, yes, I think that would be a good option. But then the 3 games remaining, yes, he might not get a tag, but they're all teams that I would suggest are probably going to beat Melbourne pretty handsomely. So, probably a no from me overall, unless you could do it as a one-way play. I'd rather Jezza. Yeah, for sure.
I think with those matchups. Mason Wood with a 70. I know Jordy will talk about him on a Tuesday night when he jumps on, but he was pretty happy with that save. I think he had like a 48-point last quarter, which is pretty incredible. He's on 22 at 3/4 time, 48-point last quarter to save that score there. So with a 70. Anyone else here? Good old Angus Hasty. I'm still why did I mention it on the HatChat Twitter space that time. Why'd I have to say, oh, he's a great red dot defender mid loop? He has not missed a game since and has been playing every game. It's just really, really frustrating. Just he keeps playing, and I need to trade in a red dot last week because I didn't have any red dots. But I think that the big story from this game, DC, on the negative side, unfortunately, was Jack Steele. 46 points. We heard on Friday that there was a shoulder concern at training, and my alarm went up because I remember him having a shoulder concern. Would have been last year or the year before, and trading him in and seeing some bad scores. So I thought go to Dunkley. But 46, I think, was worse than what we could have imagined. But not only that, his role completely went away in the second half, particularly when they were trying to win the game. Like, he only had the 16 CBAs, low game time as well. So I'm just assuming we're just crossing him off as an upgrade target, at least for the short term, unless we can see a turnaround.
Yeah, certainly as a target. I mean, the question would be, if you've got him, what do you do with him? It's tricky when we don't know what the severity is of the shoulder injury. If it's something that
he didn't have strapping, that was the other thing.
Yeah, maybe he's just sort of copped an AC joint knock or something like that. So he might be okay come next week. But yeah, certainly concerning if you own him, and maybe if you're in a really luxury position, you can move him on. But yeah, definitely wouldn't be targeting him anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. That is the game. So we'll answer, Sean, your super chat here, and we'll get the question on the screen to just make it easier for DC to answer this one. So he's saying, hey, guys, have 3 options for the week. All 3 have a rookie downgrade. So number 1, McKercher to Whitfield, and then 2, Daniel to Myers or Jackson, and then 3, McCarthy to Myers and Loop with Daniel Petrarca as a 23rd primo. So DC, which option do you like the most out of those?
Probably the second, I think. Yeah,
and you go Myers over Jackson.
Who've Geelong got this week?
Port Adelaide.
Port. Yeah, they've got a pretty good run, don't they, Geelong? Yeah, probably Myers.
Yeah, I guess
I don't mind Jackson as well, but probably Myers.
Yeah, I think I thought he had a really, he scored 94 against Port last night. I thought he had a better game than that, but then he had the Bombers the week after. He went a 112 against earlier. Then Sydney and Richmond to finish. So some really good matchups there. And with the CBAs, I like that. Do you think that, would you hold Daniel and Loop with Daniel Petrarca as a 23rd primo and upgrade McCarthy, or you'd rather have McCarthy maybe as a Loop in another line and just trade Caleb Daniel?
So Petrarca plays the first game on Saturday, and then Caleb Daniel plays the first game on Sunday. So it probably depends on whether you can make that loop work.
When does McCarthy play?
McCarthy plays in that same game as Petrarca. So that, makes it slightly tricky. It depends on who your loop is, I guess. But then the following week, Northern and Melbourne both play on Sunday, and there'd be some overlap in that game as well. So I think I'd probably just go Daniel to Myers. I think Myers is probably going to be pretty good with those matchups. Yeah,
I think I agree as well. I'd probably just hold McCarthy for the time being and do that there. And I reckon that is it there as well. Tim was saying missed his super chat there. No, Tim, I saw it before. You're asking about what trades you do in the Patreon Cup rankings. I'll go through your whole team there, so it'll be a lot easier for me to look at your team. It's a bit hard now to look at your team. We've been going for nearly an hour and 10 minutes, and we've got to let DC go. So I'll have a look at your team over the next couple of days, mate. But thank you for the super chat, mate. Always appreciate the support there. But apologies we couldn't get to more questions tonight. We'll get to a heap more of your questions on Tuesday night for our Tuesday night Q&A. But DC, one last question before we finish. How did you go in your HatChat League One league? I know that you was touch and go with maybe some finals, maybe relegation, sort of in that mixture there. Do you know how you end up going?
It is a good question. I got a win, so I've won my last 2, and that has snuck me into 8th spot. So I've gone from relegation danger 2 weeks ago to sneaking into finals. That goes to show how close those leagues are. So yeah, hopefully you can get a win this week, but incredibly competitive.
Yeah, I'm very happy because I am not getting relegated from League 6. I was able to get the job done, finishing 12th. So the last spot of the the coaches not getting relegated. So I'm very, very happy. I got another win in the league. I went 4-1 in my last 5 to resurrect my year. And I believe I won those 4 games in a row. So I came from the clouds, bottom of the ladder for all the season. And we came and we conquered not getting relegation. So very, very happy. Trades for this week, upcoming DC. Obviously, I know you said you'd play around with your team a little bit after, like obviously coming days. It's Sunday night, lockout's just lifted, but I guess maybe an idea of what you might do in terms of your trades this week.
Yeah, well, I think Doherty obviously has to go, so that's 846k I've got to play with there. I only carried over the 20k, unfortunately, which wasn't great. But and then Bergman at 792k, so it's an awkward amount of money. I might see if I can loop between McCarthy and someone else for that last on-field spot, and then go and get probably a Whitfield, I'd say, to replace Doc.
Yeah. Can't get Jezza as well? Or is that not quite enough?
No, I don't think it'd be enough cash. No.
Yeah.
I think
don't mind. Short. Yep, don't mind those there. My couple of trades, 109k in the bank by going, obviously, Dunkley instead of Steele. So a little bit extra cash will be handy this week. So a few guys that might be on the Chombot, like Rosie was to miss. He would be someone that might go for me. But yeah, Merritt is someone that I'll look at trading out because he's got those tags. I would say Tom Green, but he's got a good run, which probably saves him from being traded out. I think he'll put up few more solid scores, and maybe Caleb Daniel is someone I also go. So at this stage, maybe it's like a Merritt to a Whitfield, and then Caleb Daniel to a Jeremy Cameron, or probably more likely Matt Kenny. I think I'll get Matt Kenny locked in this week, but I do want to get Jack Sinclair in as well. So there might be something I might be able to do to try and get those guys in, but a few different moves I'll have a play around with this week. But that'll do us for another round review. So DC, thank you very much for jumping on. Once again, mate, where can the people find you across the socials?
No worries. Always good to recap the round, particularly when I don't see a lot of the footy. It helps me think about my trades before I get to that. So thanks for having me on. You can find me at DC Caterpillars, and you can find the HatChat podcast at HatChat AFL. We'll be recording our Monday pod as usual, and then hopefully back to Wednesday nights this week as well. Yeah.
Beautiful, mate. Thank you for jumping on. You can find me at BAILSDT across the socials, and us at AFL Fantasy Fans on Twitter. I'll be back with all the usual content throughout the week, and we'll be back on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. per time, answering all your questions ahead of round 21, which for a lot of people will be the start of league finals. So there were a lot of leagues for bragging rights, maybe some cash or some other prizes on the line in there as well, or there might be promotion for all the HatChat said leagues with the finals starting next week. So looking forward to seeing how that goes. Sean's saying, where the hell was the Steel news? Goat Fantasy. It's just a must follow at this point. Just follow them and Goat Fantasy, obviously Drew Jones, and AFL Ratings. Just they're the two news places to go to. Follow those two, and you won't miss anything. So I know Drew Jones posted that on Friday afternoon, then Saturday morning with that as well. So I would highly recommend going and following them. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you had a good week. Hopefully have a good few days, and we'll catch you guys in our Tuesday night Q&A. So thanks everyone. Have a good night. See ya.